Hi, Elizabeth. It's so nice to see you today. How are you going?
Good, thank you. Thanks so much for talking with me.
No worries. As I said, this is for those people who are watching. We're trying something new for the music crew, and this is something I know that I could contribute to the group. Is doing some interviews. So hopefully this is the first of many. If I muck this up, we may never do this again. So we'll see how we go. I'll introduce myself. I'm Julia from Jooya Teaching Resources on TPT, and that's probably where you're going to find me everywhere else. But so who are we talking to today?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth, and I go by Organized Chaos Music online, and that's my website and TPT and all of that.
Wonderful. So, but also we're part of the music crew, so which we'll talk about shortly anyway. So,
Mhm.
can you tell me a little bit about yourself in terms of music education? What sort of sparked it in the beginning for you?
Um, so I teach elementary music, I teach primary grades, and when I was young, I moved around to a lot of different continents. And one of those moves was in third grade. I moved from the US to Japan. And I lived there previously, but had, at that age, you learn quickly and then you forget quickly. So I started in the middle of their third grade year because their school year was different from the one in the US, and did not speak any of the language at all. And there was no sort of language learner program or anything like that because we were the only non-Japanese people in the whole town. So just kind of sat there and learned by osmosis. And the first class that I was really able to participate in was music. And that really drew me to wanting to be involved in teaching music, especially at the primary level. And that's what started it, and that's where I am.
Wow, that's amazing. And I suppose, I mean, people have always said that music is a universal language. So I suppose that just proves the point, doesn't it? That we can all,
Yeah, I mean, we all have our different accents or what's the word I'm looking for? Different dialects within music, but it
yes.
still communicates for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it transcends a lot of things. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so let's talk about what then is your main instrument, and how and why did you choose it? Because, I've got a few stories of my own, but yeah, we're talking about you today. So, yeah, what's your main instrument?
Well, so it's kind of a longer answer than it should be. My primary instrument for my music education degree when I went to conservatory was piano. But that was sort of a utilitarian thing. I was studying piano privately in high school, and it was really my piano teacher who sort of pushed me to go into music education um, to study for my undergraduate. And so, because that was the one that I was studying, I decided that was what I should pursue as my major instrument in college. But I would never call myself a pianist in front of any other pianists.
I know the feeling.
I can certainly find my way around, but I am not a performer by any means. My primary instruments that I have since graduating have performed in and performed professionally are recorders in early music ensembles and then percussion for various types of music genres.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things as a music teacher, we tend to be able to play some instruments really well and others enough just to impress somebody.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I say that, I play keyboard enough to impress year seven because that's the grades I teach, 7 to 12,
Right.
and I don't have to
Right.
impress anybody else. They overtake me very quickly, and I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Oh dear. So how long have you actually been teaching music then?
Let's see. Since 2006, so about 18 years now.
Yeah, and doesn't it feel scary when you sort of realize how long it's been?
I ran into a former student in the grocery store because he was working there as a summer job just about a week ago. And he wasn't in like my first class or anything like that. He was seemed fairly recent in my mind. So I asked him, what grade he was in, thinking he was going to say that he was in high school. And then he says, no, I'm starting my junior year of college.
Look, I know what you mean. I started teaching in 2001, and my first high school, I was teaching, we call it casual teaching. So I know you call it substitute, but I was doing it casual teaching. And anyway, there was a lot of kids. So it meant that I was in lots and lots of different classrooms, mainly in the music room, but all over the place. And there's young, like people that were in year 11 and 12, grades 11 and 12, that I taught who work with my husband, and they're in their 40s. And that makes me feel very old. So it's like, because they go,
Mm,
I remember you. It's like, oh, I
right,
know you do, Toby. Like,
right.
I remember you.
Oh,
Yeah, we're children of their own, yeah, yeah, it sort of makes you
right.
feel old, doesn't it? So anyway, let's
Hmm.
let's just leave that one apart, like over there. We'll
Yeah.
ignore that one. So what are some of the challenges you face with your, like, sorry, challenges do you find that some of your students face when they're learning an instrument, and how do you help them overcome those sorts of things in the classroom?
Mm. I've had several conversations with music teachers in my district over the last few years about the challenge of learning to play a new instrument and then also asking them to be doing other things like reading notation and what have
Mm-hmm.
you at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there are some music teachers who have this philosophy that, you've taught them how to read notation. So then, if they're starting to learn a new instrument, we go through and my curriculum, they do the recorder in third grade, they do piano in fifth grade. Those are sort of the instruments where you're really kind of trying
Yep.
to get them to read stuff from notation. And some teachers are like, well, we're not going to give them any crutches because then they won't read the notation. So, they need to just read the notes. They can't write in the letters, they can't
Mm-hmm.
mark anything, they can't color code, whatever. And if you do that, you're just helping them cheat and they're not really going to learn. And, my contention has always been that, like they can't, their brains are trying to learn how to hold the darn thing. They can't process all that information at once. And so over the years, I've really found that having when they're first learning the recorder, for example, I'll have the notation on the board and I verbalize the thought process down to the minutia of like, okay, is this on a line or a space? Which line is it? What's
Yep.
our little acronym? I'm
Yep.
going E, G, B. Okay, I'm on B. And now I'm gonna, and go through all of that. But then when it comes to now we're going to pick up our instrument, we're going to figure out how do we actually hold, our fingers for each of those notes that we said are in the song. And then at that point, like now
Yep.
we're really, as much as I kind of make it seem like we're reading it,
Yep.
when
Yep.
they're actually playing, I'm, mirroring them in
Yes.
front of them and where I'm saying the letters and we're playing it that way. And I know they're looking at me. And
Yes.
the ones who are more advanced, I'll encourage them, like, okay, like you've got this, just look at the notes or whatever. And once you get into the second or third song, then we start to talk about, okay, we figured out the first measure together. See if you can figure out the second measure and decode it yourself or whatever. But I just find it so important not to overload kids when they're learning a new instrument. Make sure that they're really able to focus on one skill at a time and then gradually integrate all those things back together.
Yeah, and that's I think um the hard thing is, as you say, like there's so much happening for a little person's brain and a bigger person's brain. Because as I said, I teach older kids, and so most of my teaching for like multiple instruments is in grade 7. Because for us here in Australia, in my state, they don't get a lot of music education before they come to high school, and it's
Mm,
compulsory for them to do music in year 7 and 8.
mm,
So I'm teaching them lots of different things, and honestly, I don't care about notation. I know that sounds
mm,
horrible, and I'm a music teacher, and yeah, I don't really care about it because I want them to be able to play. I want them to be able to engage with the
mm,
instrument, and that stuff comes later. If they want to pursue it, fantastic. But honestly, most of my senior students, who are guitarists, who are look, only there's only a few that actually play an instrument where they're actually reading music. Most of them don't read traditional notation anymore. So I
mm,
thought I'm not banging my head against a wall for something they
mm,
hate. So, I want them to love the subject. I don't want them to find a barrier. But I get where everyone comes from, but at the same time it's like let them just play.
mm. Right.
If that makes sense.
Hmm.
Oh dear. So people might hate me for that one, but too bad, so sad, as I say. But anyway, that's all good. I'm sure we might get some comments. But anyway, um, so what is your favorite lesson or concept to teach and why?
Oh gosh, that's impossible to answer. The whatever lesson I just taught is my favorite lesson. Sometimes, not all the time, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, I do love the first, so I'll give two extremes. In my
Hmm.
current job, I teach kindergarten through sixth grade. Um, so in my current job with my kindergartners, there's so many great ones, but one that comes to mind that I always think is so magical is the first day that I introduced xylophones,
Yeah.
um, and which I don't do until about 6 months into the school year. We
Yep.
play a lot of other instruments, rhythm sticks, hand drums, whatever. But the first day they walk in, and I've got a row of xylophones on the side of the room, because I have
Yep.
like 5 or 6 kids at a time come up, and then everyone else is lined up behind them. And, we're going through this whole process of like, this is how we hold the mallets, and now the fingers, and now like this, and now we're gonna play, tiptoe on the bars and try a glissando or whatever. And the first time they play a sound on it, the look of like, wow, it's just it's incredible. And I mean, I have, 30-minute class periods. That whole 30 minutes with kindergartners, they are the most focused.
Yep.
Probably they are the entire school year. You could hear a pin drop in the room, because I'm like, you move one muscle wrong and you are banished from the kingdom. And they're like, ah!
Cool kids.
So I love that lesson.
Yep.
And on the other end of the spectrum, my sixth graders, I do a lesson. We do some lessons before this where they learn about different musical genres
Hmm.
and starting to try to verbalize and articulate the characteristics of different genres, and how you can tell them apart. And then they've learned a song, both singing and playing the chords on the ukulele. And then they split up into groups and they create an arrangement or a
Yep.
remix of
Yep.
one part of the song. It's a very short part of the song, but it's so amazing to watch their brains work. And it's really fun to see them realize when I first introduced the project, they're like, there's no way, like,
Hmm.
but then I point out to them, like, well, you already know what the different chords are. And from learning about what chords are, what the notes are in, each
Yep.
of those chords. You can pick any of those to create a harmony. You can pick
Yep.
any of those to create a bass line. You can add any sort of rhythm. You know how to, use different vocal timbres depending on whatever. And then they're like, oh, I guess we can. And then
Yeah.
just some of the stuff that they come up with is just so far beyond anything that I would have ever imagined. And it's just really fun to watch them all kind of, because I kind of just set them loose on that,
Yep.
and watching them figure it out and negotiate in the group dynamics and all of
Hmm.
that and come up with the final product is just really fun to watch.
It's interesting as you're talking. So there's it very similar experience for my year seven. So I've got a lot of fun lessons. I mean, I was teaching one that I always do for texture, but that's a whole other story. Um,
Mhm.
but for my year sevens, the same sort of thing. Excuse me. It's winter here, so excuse me. Everyone around me is
Mhm.
sick. Everyone
Mm,
is sick. So I'm trying to avoid it, and I've got 2 weeks to the end of term, so I've just got to limp through. I've just got to
that's
get
right.
through to the
That's
end of
right.
term.
Hang in there.
I'm hanging in there. But yeah,
Ugh.
same sort of thing with my year sevens. That my first the first things we do with them, I tune percussion. So you've got variety of xylophones, metallophones, glockenspiels, whatever we've got. We just let them play. But I like doing banawa, which is a really nice little. It's an African folk song. It's gotten lots of nice little melodic parts, and so the same sort of deal. I teach all the parts. We do it as a class, and then I say, okay, off you go. You're going to arrange it in groups. And it's that
Mm,
same deal because no matter what parts or how they put those parts together, they always sound
right.
amazing. And they always are so surprised at what they can achieve. And nothing
Hmm.
ever sounds the same. And you think, like, I'm only giving you five different things. But how they put that
Right.
together, it's, yeah, every year. And I've been doing that one, particularly that one, probably for about 15 years because
Hmm.
it works. And the same deal, like,
Right.
with ukulele. I love teaching ukulele. I'm doing lots of ukulele at the moment. And thank
Mm,
goodness for YouTube at the moment. That's all I can say.
yes.
YouTube.
That's the instrument where I'm always just staying one step ahead of my kids as well. Like I can play five chords, they can play four. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yes, it's funny because I said we sort of teach a bit and then I'll go on to guitar after that for my kids. And I was hoping to do guitar bit this end of this term, but I'm still waiting on some to turn up. So when I've got,
Mm,
I haven't got enough guitars for kids. So it's like I've got to wait.
yeah.
But anyway, so we are nearly there. So that was the last question. Oh, sorry. I'm reading where I'm up to. So have you got any memorable teaching moments that you'd like to share? Something that really just sticks out in your mind, like, yeah, that was one of those things that will stick with you forever.
Uh, yeah, I have a few stories that I always think of every now and then I get this question. One that has been really impactful on my teaching the last decade or so. I started teaching in Seoul, South Korea. I did my
Hmm.
student teaching there and then did the first 7 years of my teaching career there. And as you've already heard from my other responses, I have not lived in the United States very much in my life up until this point, but I moved to the States um, 11 years ago
Hmm.
and got a job teaching in a public school, which is where I am now.
Yep.
And so I was coming in really as a foreigner, a hidden foreigner that nobody knew I
Okay.
was a foreigner.
Yeah.
So I don't sound or look like one, but I did not have a clue what was going on. Um, and so just I've learned a lot from my students in that process, and a lot of that has been learning about, the history of racism in the United States and the different sort of systemic things that that still exist. Most of my students are Black or Hispanic,
Yep.
um, and being white, but not really understanding what being a white American is.
Yep.
It's just I've learned a lot. And so all of that is prefaced to the story that my first year, as first years tend to be, was very difficult in this new school. And as it tends to be in your first year as a music teacher in a new school, my oldest kids, my sixth graders, were especially challenging.
Hmm.
And so I had a few conversations, as one does, of, trying to kind of tease out what would be engaging for them so that I could try to, get them on board and, asking them like, well, okay, what kinds of things are you interested in? What kind of music do you like to listen to? And that kind of thing. And I had one boy who just insisted that he did not like any music. He did not listen to music ever. He just does not like music. I don't like any music at all. And I tried asking him a million different ways, and he was like, no, I don't. I don't like music. And then, so, I would try to, anyway. So
Yeah.
I tried all different things. And then a few weeks later, I was outside at dismissal. He was waiting to get picked up by his family or something, and he had headphones in.
Ah.
And I saw him from behind and I ran up behind him, and this not something maybe that is advisable, but I grabbed one of the earbuds out of his ear and stuck it in my ear and was like, "Aha, you're listening to music." And it was, it was the typical sort of thing that was popular as a hip hop
Yeah.
song. And he's like, and he said to me, "What? What are you talking about?" And he still was like not getting it. He was very
Wow.
genuine. And I said, "You're listening to a song. Which artist is this?" And he's like, "Oh, I thought you meant like school music. I didn't know that you
Ah.
meant like this." And that was the first time that I had ever had, because he was quite serious. He
Yeah.
really did not, it never occurred to him when I was asking that I would include hip hop, rap as a type of music
Yeah.
that I would be interested in hearing about in school as a music teacher.
Wow.
Um, and so that was a huge moment for me. And I've, since gone down a, path of learning about hip hop and rap and how to kind of incorporate that into my curriculum and things like that as well. But it was also a big turning point for me in my relationship with him,
Yeah.
which kind of expanded to the rest of that class and really also made me a lot more conscious of the sorts of, the distance that can exist between the teachers and the students in a school where a lot of the students are black and brown and a lot of the
Yeah.
teachers are white.
Yeah.
And so, because that was something I hadn't experienced before.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a really pivotal moment for me that changed the trajectory of what I was doing for the next decade.
Yeah. Yeah. And isn't it amazing that, like, I hear what you're saying in terms of kids don't make that connection that what they are doing outside of the classroom can actually be applied in the classroom. It's okay, we can bring that in to a degree. Might need some filtering. But yeah, it's a weird thing. I've had kids the same sort of deal. They don't like music and I don't like it. But yeah, but they're forever walking around
Mhm.
with something in their ears, listening to something. And I'm pretty sure it's not a podcast. So
Right.
pretty sure it's not a podcast. But anyway, all right. So we're talking about we've got a virtual conference coming up. So
Mhm.
can you sort of tell me how that the conference started? Because I know you're one of the founding members of the music crew. So what sort of
Mhm.
happened? Like, why on earth did you come up with this virtual conference in the first place?
You know, I'm trying to remember what year we started doing it. Um, if it was related to the pandemic or not.
Right.
But we had really kind of started talking when we first formed, which was before the pandemic for sure, about wanting to do something where we had a way of all of us kind of combining our experience, our knowledge, our expertise in different areas to be able to share with people in a different, more accessible platform.
Yep.
Um, and we knew we wanted it to be, sort of manageable pieces because teachers are busy and already overwhelmed with things, and we knew we wanted it to be accessible for everyone. And so we kind of decided to try it. And this was really before virtual conferences were a thing.
Yep.
So we were really kind of building the technology and like figuring it out as we went, which is a little bit how we ended up on doing it on entirely on Facebook. And we wanted also, we knew that for a lot of people, um, learning a new platform and asking them to, download a new app or anything
Yep.
like that was
Yep.
going to be prohibitive. So that was a really attractive option and it worked out and it's really grown since then a lot. And now, there are a lot of virtual conferences that different people host entirely online, especially since the pandemic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool to see that come together.
For sure. I've recently been part of a research study. One of a colleague of mine who lives up north on the mid coast of New South Wales in the most beautiful part of the world. But anyway, she
Mm,
was doing a study on and she's just finished it. I've just read her actual thing, the doctorate, the thesis, whatever it
yeah,
is. It's a lot.
yes.
But it was
Hmm.
basically on she was researching um, professional development for music teachers. And let's face it, as we know, and probably anyone that's watching, as we know, as music teachers,
Hmm.
there's very little out there for us that's
Hmm.
specifically for music.
Right.
How many of us, because we're part of a school and it's a bigger community, are sitting in a professional development going, this does not apply to me in any way, shape, or form. And you just have to sit there and do it because that's a whole school push. And it's like, yay, this is so much fun. So I think, as I said, having this virtual conference, yeah, sorry, slight sarcasm there. Having this virtual conference is a really good thing for our music teachers just to be able to access. And
Hmm.
it's free for goodness sake. Like,
Right.
and this is coming from real music teachers, not someone who's sitting up there in
Right.
you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
you
Exactly.
know,
In
professorship
the
land,
ivory tower.
ivory
Yes.
towers, people who are actually in the classroom, who are actually still
Right.
in the classroom. And yeah, so that's what I really love about the virtual conference is that it's
Hmm.
from real music teachers who are
Right.
in the trenches with you. So yeah.
Mhm.
So with that in mind, what are you actually doing this for this conference? What's your topic?
So this year I'm going to be presenting on learning targets and making learning targets um, actually useful and something that kids don't roll their eyes at.
I'm giggling
Um,
because I roll my eyes at it. We have to do the same thing. It's like, oh, again,
uh,
this is what I'm talking about with school pushes. I'm sure that everybody has
right.
these things. And, as a music teacher, they don't always easily apply. So I can't wait for this session because I need it myself. So sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's so because I'm the same way. And I mentioned to my supervisor that I was going to be presenting a session on that, and she laughed because um, this was they've sort of started a couple of years ago suggesting that teachers should post, and I'm using the word learning targets
Hmm.
because that's sort of the generally,
Yeah.
recognized language, but um, they wanted us to post that and have, and then this past school year that just ended for us, every teacher in every subject in every grade level was required to post um, a learning, they called it a learning target that included success criteria
Hmm.
and had to be written and posted on the wall. It can't be in a slide that you project that goes away. It has to be on the wall and it has to be written out and it has to be the specific 3 sentences that they gave us, like sentence starters, that you had to use. And I said, so even in kindergarten, when they can't read?
Read?
And they said, yes, I actually had an observation where I indeed did have the learning target written out and posted for a kindergarten lesson, but I didn't really reference it. I didn't like
Yep.
point to it and have them read it or anything like that
Yeah.
because they can't read. So I had it there, but like, and, and I articulated it, and obviously the lesson was tied back. I got dinged on my evaluation because I didn't like reference it properly enough. And so that sent me on a quest of, and also, like I've been teaching long enough. I know how to hook kids in,
Hmm.
and it's not with three sentences that are written on the wall.
I'm sorry. So this is just so ringing true. I'll tell a story in a minute, but yes, keep going.
Yeah. So I went on a tirade about like I am not doing this. It like I'm not gonna I'm far enough in my career that I'm not gonna just do something if I know it's going to, because in fact, I think adding visual clutter
Hmm.
and adding more, written words that are supposed to be read and interpreted and analyzed and all of that is not only not helpful, but in fact harmful for my like 25 minutes of teaching time that I have with my kids. It's going to turn them off.
Yes.
So I went on a huge quest, including I went all the way back to figure out the research study that the district administrators kept referencing as the basis for why they wanted all of us to do this,
Yep.
and traced it all the way back to John Hattie's research, which you
Oh,
may be
yes.
familiar.
Yes.
So then I found Professor Hattie's email address, and I
Oh,
emailed him. And well, before that, I found out that, I don't know if you know this being in Australia, but John Hattie is in fact a former music teacher.
I didn't know his music. I knew he was a teacher, but I didn't realize it was music. Well, there you go.
Yes,
Okay.
he's a
Yep.
music teacher. So then I was like, oh, I have a connection now. So I
Yep.
emailed him and said, what do you think about all this? And he pointed me to some really helpful literature on, how to actually word it in a way that is in line with what his research, which, surprise,
Right.
surprise, is not what the district was asking me to do. So I was able to kind of use that, and then also just a lot of trial and error with my kids to figure out both. So I really focused this past year on my fifth graders and how to, you know, have something that actually works and is helpful
Yep.
for the older kids
Yep.
learning and doesn't turn their brain off and
Yep.
make them disengage. And then also how to have learning targets posted for my kindergartners who cannot read in a way that's actually helpful for them as well. So those are the things that I want, and it has to do with not just kind of the visual of it, but also obviously how, you're presenting it in the lesson.
Yep.
So
Yep.
and now I'm a believer in the my way. I'm not, I do not think that you should have like three sentences and you should sit there and today I will learn and this is why, for
Hmm.
every lesson,
Hmm.
anything like that.
Hmm.
But I do believe that what I've kind of ended up with has actually been helpful for learning, and I've seen a difference
Right.
um, in my students, both the youngest ones and the oldest ones. Um, so I'm excited to
Yeah.
present about this and also get, some feedback and continue to fine tune that as we go along too.
Well, I'm excited about it too because that's something that they've been pushing at my school. And sorry, I'm laughing because it's like everybody's doing the same thing. Like, had he come out years ago, and I remember it was years ago, probably about
Hmm.
10 years ago, I read his book. So it's
Right.
interesting it's taken this long to sort of get into the classroom. But what I'm really giggling about is so we in our boards, all of our across our school, they've got the learning intentions and success criteria. So learning targets,
Hmm.
success criteria, and they
Hmm.
had made all these stickers up. So they stuck
Hmm.
them to the board. So I changed classrooms this year and I come in, I couldn't reach them. I'm only 5 foot tall. I could not reach them. I seriously was like, this is stupid. I can't even reach that. Like where you put it up on the board, nobody could reach that. So I literally ripped them off and they went, you haven't got your stickers. I said, yeah, because my board's really small. It was like taking up a third of the board as it was. And it was like, no, I'm going to do it a different way. So I can't wait to see what yeah, come up. Because I said, I'm like, I need this. So thank you. So I think you've already
Uh,
covered what motivated you to do this and why how it's going to benefit. You've really done all that in that one question. So thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, so and again, I'm sorry for giggling, but oh dear. Anyway,
no, it is. I'm so glad you're in the same situation because I was very angry at the
yeah.
beginning of this year. I was.
Yeah, yeah. They started this a couple of years ago for us, and because
Hmm.
I'm sure you guys have the same sort of thing, but a school improvement plan process and the cycle, and
Right.
it goes over
Hmm.
so many years, and so yeah, it's one of those initiatives. So
Hmm.
okay, let me breathe.
Hmm.
Anyway, sorry. Um, again, same but different, isn't it? Everywhere, so it doesn't matter where you are. So where can people find you on social media and follow your work to get more, to learn more about you? Obviously, you're a teacher with a lot of experience and a lot of amazing things out there. So yeah, where can people find you?
Well, so the main place is my website, which is caldwellorganizedchaos.com. It's Caldwell. And then on Instagram and Facebook, it's the same. It's Caldwell Organized Chaos. But if you go to my website, I've got all of my links there to my TPT store and all my social media accounts. And I post a new post at least once a week. A lot of times in the summer vacation months, I do a little bit more than that, and have been for a long time. So there's a lot of content there, and that's really my focus. So that's a good place to start.
Right. And sorry if you can hear a train going past people. But for those of us who are in Australia, organised is spelt with a Z, not an S. So,
Yes, that's right.
so just to think about that. And you've got a TPT store, Teachers Pay Teachers store as well. So is that called Organised Chaos as well?
Yes, I believe it's organized chaos music.
Okay. Isn't it terrible? We've
Mhm.
all probably been on there for ages and can't always remember our stores. And they're all
I know.
changing. And they're all changing. They've thrown that at us this year. So what sort of resources do you have there that would help these other music teachers out there?
So I have a few main areas of focus. One area is teacher planners for music teachers.
Yep,
Um, I design them in 7 different lesson planning formats. So there's everything you could possibly need, and it's updated for free every year.
yep,
So if you buy the file, then you download it for free every year. And I have, the January through December calendars as well, not just the August through July. So you can work with any calendar you've got. Another area is my general music curriculum,
hmm
which, as you know from my background, I've worked with a lot of different national standards, and in fact, taught in a British school in South Korea for a while, worked with the national British curriculum,
Wow.
and among other things. So my curriculum really hits on all of those different ones that I've worked with. And when I worked in an international school, we worked with the Australian curriculum as well, and I've worked with IB and things like that.
Yep,
So that's my curriculum, which I is another kind of area of resources. And then the other main area is my music from countries around the world.
yep,
I obviously growing up primarily in Japan, I have some different lesson resources on music from Japan specifically. But then I've also done a lot of work in some units where students are learning about different instruments from several different cultures, and they can compare those to instruments that they're familiar with and see some authentic performance examples and things like that. So
yep.
those are my main areas.
Wow. And as you say, because you've actually lived a lot of this these countries, it's genuine. It's comes from a place of genuineness, realness, I don't know, authenticity, I
Yes.
suppose is the real word I'm looking for. So it's Saturday morning here and it's been a long week.
Yes.
It's been a long week. 2 weeks to go. That's what I keep thinking.
That's
So
right.
we're just going to finish up with a couple of quick questions about like some silly things. So what are you reading at the moment?
I am reading a book. Let's see if I can remember the whole name. The Heaven and Earth store, the grocery store, Heaven and Earth. It's
Oh,
something like that. I was
oh,
just looking at it. I started it recently. And I have the culturally responsive pedagogy for music education
yep,
is on my bedside table to read next because it's one of those books that I feel like I should have read a long time ago.
yep.
But yeah, the Heaven and Earth grocery store. I think that's what it's called.
Oh, that sounds interesting. And what are you
Yeah.
currently binge watching?
Um, it's a Netflix series called Blown Away, that I'm watching with I have twins who are 12. So I don't own a television. I
Right.
don't watch a lot of things, but that's the show that we've been kind of watching, once a
Yep.
week or so, the Blown Away. It's about glass blowing. It's really interesting.
Oh, okay,
And
okay. I wondered where the blown away was coming in.
right.
Um, if you had where if you feel going out for dinner, where's your favorite restaurant to go to? You go to.
Ah, so many. Usually okay, so my latest favorite, I took my father there for Father's Day, is Indian street food.
Oh,
It's very good. I love Indian food in general,
yep,
but Indian street food has got like some really good like things that you don't find other places. So
yep,
yeah, I
yep,
like that a lot.
yep. Sounds good. And lastly, your favorite thing to do when and if you actually have 5 minutes to yourself.
Well, I think my sort of, what they call me time, I guess, that I do is decorating my planner.
Yep,
Truly.
yep,
I grew up being a scrapbooker and I have all kinds of scrapbooks with all the different kinds of papers and the stickers and the pens and everything. And so I've just translated that into something that's semi-productive. And, I use scrapbook paper and stickers and washi tape and
yep,
everything to kind of decorate my planner. And it really does, it gives me a chance to process because,
yep,
again, 2 12-year-olds, single parent,
yep,
teacher, business owner, all those things, in the process of sort of decorating my planner, it's not only creative and like a way for me to be artistic, but it also helps me process everything. So that's been a really good, I don't miss a week with that.
Oh, wow. I envy your dedication to planning. I buy a lot of books. I buy a lot of planners and then they don't get
hmm
used. In fact, I've got some sitting right. They're staring at me and I have not used them. And it's like almost it's 6 months into the year, but anyway, we won't go there.
I hear that a lot. That's a common thing.
I love the idea of it. Yeah, anyway, we won't go there. It's just me.
Right.
Anyway, well, look, thank you so much for for being here, Elizabeth, and you know, being part of the first news Meet the Crew. And I hope that this is a lot more, we get a lot more other people from the music crew that we can actually interview. Because I don't know about you, but this has been a fun conversation.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
and a way to get to know you. And as I said, it's a lovely way for other people to get to know you because it's we don't always see the person behind everything else. And
Right.
yeah, so I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much for
So
doing
don't
this.
forget. So can we? When is the conference? Let's let people know when the conference actually is. The dates.
So July, it's Thursday, so I think it's 18th,
I think that's
19,
right.
20. I think
Yep,
that's right.
yep, and it's
Yes,
all
it's
online.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, and all in the music crew. Everything, all the
Yes.
information will be there. All the links will be there. All the videos will be there. And you can always come back and get them. And one of the benefits is people can also get their certificates for credits. Is that what you call them?
Right, you can get credits. We have a certificate that you can give if you're needing to keep track of hours for your school district. You can get PD credits, and specifically for people in Michigan, they have their own
Yeah.
fun little way they have to get accredited. So we have those hours as well that they can get. Yeah, and it's all just in the Facebook group. So if you're in the group, the Music Crew Collaborative,
Yep.
then you're already in. You just got to show up and you don't even have to watch it live. You can come
Yes.
watch it at your own convenience, in your couch, in your jammies, and
Yeah.
it's
Which is what I love
whenever you
because
want to. Yeah.
when they're live for me, it's at ridiculous o'clock. Like I'm not getting up at
Mm-hmm.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Yes, so sorry.
No.
Not doing
That's
it.
right. It doesn't matter what time zone you're in, you can still watch all of them.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. As said, it's been wonderful chatting to you and getting to know you. And I hope that everybody comes and watches your session in the virtual conference.
Yeah, thank you. It's
Thank
good to
you.
talk to
Thank
you.
you.